Hajun! Zara's scream tore through the library walls, echoing off the shelves as she cradled his limp body against her chest, his blood seeping warm through her fingers. The book he'd been holding lay open beside them, its pages now splattered crimson. "Stay with me, please. Don't you dare close your eyes." Her voice cracked as she shook him gently, desperate, terrified. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance. Footsteps thundered down the hall. But all Zara could focus on was the boy in her arms. The boy she had sworn she would never care about again. It was almost laughable. 6 weeks ago, she would have given anything to forget his name. 6 weeks ago, Kang Hajun had been nothing more than the reason her world fell apart. The rain was the kind that soaked through clothes in seconds, cold and unforgiving, much like the city of Seoul itself. Zara Williams stood at the gates of Hanseong Academy, her former school, watching water stream down the iron bars that had once felt like a gateway to her future. Now they felt like prison bars. She'd been expelled exactly 32 days ago. She knew because she'd counted every single one. Every morning waking up in shame, every afternoon fielding her mother's worried calls, every night replaying the moment her entire life had shattered. And it was all because of him. Kang Hajun. The name tasted like poison in her mouth. The boy with the cold eyes and the colder heart. The heir to something dark and powerful that everyone whispered about, but no one dared speak aloud. The boy she'd been stupid enough to develop a crush on. The boy who destroyed her for it. Her hands clenched around the wet metal of the gate, knuckles going pale. Inside, through the sheets of rain, she could see students rushing to class, laughing, living the life that had been ripped away from her. The life she'd worked so hard to build. Top of her class, full scholarship, a future that had felt limitless. Gone. All of it. Because she'd smiled at the wrong person. "I swear," she whispered to the empty street, rain mixing with the tears on her face, "I'll come back. And when I do, you're going to regret ever knowing my name." The words felt like a vow, like blood signing a contract. She turned away from the gates, from the school, from the girl she used to be. That girl, the one who believed in goodness, who saw the best in people, who thought a smile could bridge any gap, was dead. Kang Hajun had killed her. And someone new had been born in her place. Someone harder. Colder. Someone who understood that in this world, kindness was a weakness to be exploited. Someone who would make him pay. 6 weeks earlier, Zara hadn't understood the rules of Hanseong Academy when she'd transferred in. Hadn't understood that there were invisible hierarchies, unspoken laws, and one person you absolutely did not approach under any circumstances. She learned that lesson the hard way. It was a Wednesday morning, second period literature, when Kang Hajun's pen rolled off his desk and landed near her foot. The entire class went silent, a silence so complete that Zara could hear her own heartbeat. She looked down at the expensive fountain pen, then up at the boy who'd dropped it. He sat 3 rows back, perfectly still, watching the pen like it had committed treason by rolling toward her. His face was the kind of beautiful that belonged in museums. All sharp angles and perfect symmetry, with dark eyes that seemed to see through everything. He wore the school uniform like it had been tailored specifically for him, which it probably had been, and carried himself with the kind of quiet authority that made teachers hesitate before calling on him. Zara had noticed him on her first day. Everyone noticed him. He was impossible not to notice, like a storm cloud in an empty sky. But unlike everyone else, who seemed to orbit around him with careful distance, Zara didn't see why she should be afraid of a teenage boy who dropped pens. So she smiled, bent down, and picked it up. The silence in the classroom somehow deepened. Someone gasped. Another person whispered something that sounded like a prayer. "You dropped this," Zara said cheerfully, standing and walking over to his desk with her hand outstretched. Up close, he was even more striking, and more unsettling. Those dark eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch, like he was memorizing her face for reasons she couldn't fathom. For a moment, just a fraction of a second, she saw something flicker in his expression. Surprise? Fear? She couldn't tell. But then it was gone, replaced by a mask so complete it might as well have been carved from marble. "Thank you," he said quietly, taking the pen without letting their fingers touch. His voice was lower than she'd expected. Softer. Almost gentle? "No problem," she said, still smiling. "I'm Zara, by the way. I'm new." "I know," he said. Then, as if realizing how that sounded, added, "Everyone knows the new transfer student." "Oh, right." She laughed, a little embarrassed. "Well, nice to officially meet you." She waited for him to introduce himself, but he just stared at her with those unreadable eyes, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve, or a problem he needed to eliminate. The moment stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Zara cleared her throat. Anyway, I should get back to my seat. See you around? He didn't respond. Just kept staring until she turned and walked back to her desk, acutely aware of every eye in the classroom tracking her movement. She slid into her seat, and immediately her desk partner, a girl named Minji who'd been friendly but distant so far, leaned over with wide, horrified eyes. What were you thinking? Minji hissed. What? I was just returning his pen. You don't talk to Kong Hejun. You don't even look at Kong Hejun. Oh my God, you're so dead. Zara blinked. Dead? For returning a pen? That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? You don't understand. His family. Minji glanced around nervously, then lowered her voice even further. They're dangerous. Like, actually dangerous. People who cross the Kong family don't. They don't do well. Cross them? I gave him back his pen. It doesn't matter. You approached him. You spoke to him. You smiled at him like he's normal. And now he's going to notice you. And trust me, you don't want Kong Hejun to notice you. Zara wanted to argue, but something about the genuine fear in Minji's eyes stopped her. She glanced back at Hejun, found him still watching her, and felt a shiver run down her spine that had nothing to do with the classroom's air conditioning. Maybe there was something to be afraid of after all. But Zara Williams had never been good at fear. Over the next week, she watched Kong Hejun. Not obviously, she wasn't stupid. But in the subtle ways you notice someone when they've caught your attention. The way he always sat alone at lunch, his table empty despite the cafeteria being packed. The way teachers called on him with a certain carefulness, like they were afraid of his answer. The way other students gave him a wide berth in the hallways, parting like water around a stone. And the way he never, ever smiled. But she also noticed other things. Things that didn't fit the dangerous air narrative everyone seemed to believe. Like how he stayed after class to help the janitor pick up scattered papers when another student's backpack had exploded. How he placed money in the charity donation box when he thought no one was looking. How his eyes softened, just slightly, when an underclassman dropped their books and scrambled to pick them up before anyone could step on them. He helped, just for a second, barely perceptible, before walking away like it had never happened. And Zara thought he's lonely. It was a stupid thought. Dangerous even. But once it lodged in her brain, she couldn't shake it. So she did something monumentally foolish. She decided to befriend him. It started small. A smile when they passed in the hallway. A good morning, when she arrived early to class and found him already in his seat. A nice job, when he gave a presentation that was clearly brilliant despite his monotone delivery. He never responded. Never acknowledged her beyond the briefest eye contact. But he didn't tell her to stop either. And Zara had always been persistent. 2 weeks after the pen incident, she found him in the library during lunch period. He sat alone in the back corner, surrounded by advanced textbooks that would have given most students a headache just looking at them. She walked over, carrying her own lunch, and sat down across from him without asking. He looked up slowly, expression unreadable. Hi, she said brightly. Silence. I'm studying for the literature exam. Mr. Kim's essays are brutal. You took his class last year, right? Top score? More silence. I was wondering if you had any tips. Or maybe we could study together. I heard you're pretty good at. No. His voice cut through her rambling like a knife. Zara blinked. No to studying together or no to tips? Both. Oh. She sat back, stung despite herself. Can I ask why? I don't study with people. Ever. She asked. Ever. His cold reply came. That sounds lonely. Something flickered across his face. There and gone so fast she almost missed it. I prefer it that way. Do you? She asked, genuinely curious. Or is that just what you tell yourself? His jaw tightened. You don't know anything about me. I know you help people when you think no one's watching. I know you're brilliant, but you hide it behind monotone presentations. I know you sit alone every single day and pretend you prefer it. She leaned forward. I know you're lonely, Hejun. Even if you won't admit it. The use of his first name, without the formal suffix, spoken with an American directness that ignored every Korean social convention, made his eyes widen fractionally. Don't, he said, and for the first time, his voice held something other than cold indifference. It held something that sounded almost like panic. Don't do this. Do what? Try to be your friend. She asked innocently. Yes. Why not? Because He stopped himself, jaw working like he was physically holding back words. Finally, he just said, "Because it won't end well. For either of us. But especially for you." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning." "Well," Zara said, standing up and gathering her things, "I'm American. We're not great at taking warnings." She left before he could respond, but she felt his eyes on her all the way to the door. And if she'd turned around, she would have seen the way his hands clenched into fists on the table. The way his jaw tightened. The way something that looked almost like longing crossed his face before he crushed it down with the ruthlessness he applied to everything else in his life. Hejun knew he was making a mistake. He'd known it from the moment she'd picked up his pen and smiled at him like he was normal. Like he was someone worth smiling at. Like she couldn't see the blood that stained his family name or the violence that ran through his veins like DNA. She was dangerous in a way his father's enemies could never be. Because she made him feel things. Want things. Things he'd spent 18 years learning to live without. Every time she smiled at him, something in his chest cracked a little more. Every time she said his name with that American directness, ignoring every social barrier meant to keep people at a safe distance, he felt the walls he'd built start to crumble. And that terrified him, because Hejun had learned young what happened to people he cared about, had learned what his father's enemies did to vulnerabilities, had watched his older brother, once vibrant, once full of life, get reduced to a shell of a person because he'd made the mistake of falling in love. Hejun had stood outside that hospital room and listened to the screaming, had seen the woman's body afterward, broken beyond recognition, had watched his brother's eyes go dead even though his body still breathed. Love is weakness, his father had told him. Attachment is a bullet waiting to happen. Remember that, Hejun. Everyone you care about becomes a target. So Hejun had learned not to care. Had perfected the art of coldness, of distance, of being untouchable. Had built a reputation that kept everyone away. Until Zara Williams transferred in with her bright smile and her complete ignorance of how the world worked, and decided he was worth befriending. He should have shut her down immediately. Should have been cruel enough that she'd never try again. But every time he opened his mouth to do it, he remembered the way her eyes lit up when she talked about literature. The way she laughed, loud and unself-conscious, when something genuinely amused her. The way she treated him like he was just another 18-year-old instead of the heir to a crime empire. And he couldn't do it. Couldn't bring himself to kill that light. So he did the next best thing. He kept his distance. Stayed cold. Gave her nothing to work with. It should have been enough. It wasn't. The day everything changed started like any other. Zara arrived at school early, as had become her habit, partly for studying and partly because she'd figured out that Hejun always arrived early too. She'd started timing her arrivals to coincide with his, earning herself those brief moments in the classroom before anyone else arrived. She decided to call it progress that he no longer actively ignored her. Now he just stared at her in silence, which was basically friendship in Hejun language. "Morning," she said cheerfully, dropping her bag on her desk. He looked up from the book he was reading. "Morning." Zara's heart did a stupid little flip. He'd greeted her back. Voluntarily. That was definitely progress. "What are you reading?" He showed her the cover, Advanced Quantum Physics, because of course it was. "For fun?" she asked. "For understanding. Of quantum physics. Of how things work on a level most people never see." There was something in the way he said it, wistful almost, that made Zara sit down in the seat next to him instead of at her own desk. "Do you think that's why you like it? Because it's hidden? Because most people can't understand it?" Hejun was quiet for a long moment. "Then, maybe. Or maybe I like knowing there are rules. Concrete, provable rules that don't change based on emotion or circumstance. Unlike people." "Unlike people," he agreed softly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and Zara felt something shift between them. Some invisible barrier, not quite lowered but thinned. Enough that she could almost see through to the person underneath. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "You can ask. I may not answer." "Fair enough." She took a breath. "Why did you warn me away that day in the library? What did you mean by it won't end well?" Hejun's entire body went rigid. "Zara, just tell me. I'm not scared of you, if that's what you're worried about. I know everyone else is, but I'm not. So just be honest with me. You should be scared of me. But I'm not. So answer the question." He closed his book slowly, carefully, like he was buying time. When he finally looked at her, his eyes held something she'd never seen before, genuine pain. "My family isn't what you think. What most people think. We're not just wealthy. He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. My father controls things. Territory, businesses, people. And anyone who gets close to me, anyone who matters, becomes leverage. Becomes a target. Zara's mouth went dry. Your family is, don't say it, he said quickly. Don't put a name to it. Just understand that the rumors, the fear, they're not wrong. And anyone who he swallowed hard. Anyone I care about gets hurt. That's not a threat. It's just fact. You're trying to protect me, she said, understanding dawning. I'm trying to save you from the mistake of knowing me. What if I don't want to be saved? Then you're more foolish than I thought. It should have stung. But instead, Zara heard what he didn't say. Please don't make me care about you. Please don't make me into someone who has something to lose. Too late, she thought. Because somewhere between the returned pen and this moment, she'd developed a full-blown crush on Kang Hejun. On the boy behind the mask. On the person who read quantum physics and helped people in secret and was desperately trying to protect her by pushing her away. I have a crush on you, she blurted out before she could stop herself. Hejun's eyes went wide. Genuinely, completely shocked. I know it's stupid, she continued, words tumbling out in a rush. I know you've done everything to discourage it. I know this is probably the worst idea I've ever had. But I'm tired of pretending I don't. So there. I like you. I think you're brilliant and lonely and kind underneath all the ice. And I don't care about your family's reputation or how dangerous you're supposed to be. I like you. The silence that followed felt like it lasted hours. Hejun stared at her with an expression she couldn't read. Something between terror and longing, between hope and horror. You can't, he finally whispered. Too late. Zara, you don't understand what you're. Then help me understand. Talk to me. Let me in. Stop trying to protect me by pushing me away. I can't. His voice cracked. I can't do that to you. You're not doing anything to me. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. Don't. He stood up abruptly, backing away like she was dangerous. Don't choose me. Choose literally anyone else. Choose a normal life. Choose safety. Just don't. His hands were shaking. Actually shaking. Don't make me care about you. Please. Hejun. But he was already walking away, practically running from the classroom like she'd set him on fire. And maybe she had. That was 3 weeks ago. After that morning, everything changed. Hejun went from cold to actively avoiding her. He switched seats in every class they shared. Started arriving late to avoid their early morning encounters. Stopped going to the library during lunch. It hurt more than Zara wanted to admit. But she understood. Or thought she did. He was scared. Of his feelings, of the consequences, of something she couldn't quite understand, but felt hovering in the space between them like a storm waiting to break. So she gave him space. Stopped trying to engage. Let him have his distance. She thought that would be enough. She was wrong. It was a Friday when her world ended. Zara was called to the principal's office during the 4th period. She went, confused but not worried. She had perfect grades, perfect attendance, no disciplinary issues. The principal's face was grave when she entered. Miss Williams, please sit down. She sat. We've received some concerning information. About your conduct. My conduct? Yes. He pulled out a file folder, flipped it open. It appears you've been stealing exam answers and selling them to other students. Zara's blood went cold. That's not true. I would never. We found the stolen exams in your locker. That's impossible. Someone must have planted. And we have text messages from your phone. Negotiations with other students. Proof of payment. What? Let me see. Those aren't my messages. Someone must have hacked my phone or... And there's also this. He pulled out another sheet. A complaint from another student. Kim Suji. She claims you've been cyberbullying her. Sending threatening messages. Making her feel unsafe. What? I've never even talked to Kim Suji. This is insane. The evidence is quite clear, Miss Williams. Evidence can be faked. Please, you have to believe me. I didn't do any of this. Someone is framing me. The principal looked at her with something between pity and disappointment. I've called your mother. She's on her way. In the meantime, we'll need you to clean out your locker. The board has voted to expel you, effective immediately. Your scholarship is revoked. The word crashed over her like a wave. Expelled. No. No, please. This school is everything to me. My scholarship, my future. Please, you have to investigate this properly. Someone is setting me up. Please. I'm sorry, Miss Williams. The decision is final. Zara stumbled out of the office in a daze. Expelled. For things she didn't do. For crimes she didn't commit. Someone had framed her. Expertly. Completely. And there was only one person in this school with the resources and motivation to do something like this. She found Hejun in the courtyard, alone as always. He looked up when she approached, and something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked like guilt. It was you, she said. He didn't deny it. Didn't even try to. Why? Her voice broke on the word. Why would you do this to me? You should go home, Zara. Answer me. I told you I liked you. I tried to be your friend. I never did anything to hurt you. So why? Why destroy my life? Hejun stood up slowly, and his face was a mask again. That perfect, cold mask that showed nothing. Because you made a mistake, he said flatly. You thought we could be friends. You thought I was someone you could fix with your smiles and your optimism. But I'm not. I'm exactly what everyone says I am. And you should have stayed away. I had a crush on you, she said, tears streaming down her face now. Did you know that? I actually liked you. I thought there was something good under all that ice. And you destroyed my entire life because of it. Something cracked in his expression. Just for a second. A flash of pain so intense it made him flinch. But then it was gone. Then you were even more stupid than I thought, he said. Get out of my school, Zara. And don't come back. Why? Just tell me why. What did I do to you? You existed, he said simply. That was enough. The cruelty of it, the casual, devastating cruelty, stole her breath. I'll come back, she said, voice shaking with rage and pain and something darker. I don't know when, but I'll come back. And when I do, you're going to regret this. You're going to regret ever knowing my name. No, you won't, Hejun said, and his voice was empty. Hollow. People like you don't come back from this. They move on. They find new schools, new lives. They forget. I won't forget, she swore. I'll never forget. And I'll make you pay for this. She turned and walked away before he could see her completely fall apart. She didn't see the way his hands clenched into fists hard enough to draw blood from his palms. Didn't see the way he watched her leave with something that looked like anguish in his eyes. Didn't see the way he stood there long after she'd gone, staring at nothing. Didn't see him whisper to the empty courtyard. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Hejun's father found him in his office that evening. I heard you took care of the problem, his father said approvingly. The Williams girl. Yes. Good. She was getting too close. Too comfortable. You did the right thing. Hejun said nothing. I know it's hard, his father continued, mistaking Hejun's silence for doubt. But this is how we survive. We eliminate threats before they become dangerous. Better she hates you from a distance than loves you and ends up like... Don't, Hejun said quietly. Don't talk about Hyunseok. His father's face hardened. Your brother is exactly why we do what we do. He fell in love and look what happened. She died. He might as well be dead. All because he was weak enough to care. Maybe caring isn't weakness. Excuse me. Hejun looked at his father, really looked at him, and saw his own future. Cold. Alone. Powerful. Empty. Nothing, he said. It doesn't matter. You did well today, Hejun. You're ready to take over when the time comes. You understand what it takes to survive in our world. After his father left, Hejun sat in the darkness of his office and let himself feel it. The pain. The guilt. The aching emptiness where something bright and warm had briefly existed. He'd saved her. That's what he told himself. He'd destroyed her reputation and her future at this school, yes. But he'd saved her life. Because if she'd stayed, if she'd gotten closer, if he'd let himself care, his enemies would have killed her. Slowly. Painfully. The way they'd killed his brother's girlfriend. This way she'd hate him. But she'd be alive. It was a trade he could live with. Or so he told himself, alone in the dark, as he tried to forget the way she'd looked at him with tears streaming down her face. Tried to forget the words that had haunted him since the moment she'd said them. I had a crush on you. Past tense. Past tense because he'd killed it. Killed any possibility of something good in his life, because that was what survival demanded. He'd done the right thing. So why did it feel like he'd just destroyed the best thing that had ever happened to him? 6 weeks later. Present day the rain had stopped by the time Zara left the gates of Hanseong Academy. 6 weeks of hell. 6 weeks of working with a private investigator her mother had hired, piecing together the frame-up, finding the holes in the fabricated evidence. 6 weeks of fighting for her name, her reputation, her future. 6 weeks of letting rage transform her into someone new. She'd won. The school board had reviewed the new evidence and reinstated her, full scholarship restored. They'd issued a formal apology, promised a full investigation into who had actually committed the fraud. She'd told them she didn't know, had lied through her teeth as she protected the person who'd destroyed her. Not because she forgave him, but because his punishment wasn't going to come from the school board. It was going to come from her. She went home, and for the first time in 6 weeks, she slept soundly. Because tomorrow, she'd return to Hanseong Academy. Return to the halls where she'd been humiliated. Return to face the boy who'd broken her. And she'd make him regret every single moment of the last 6 weeks. Kang Hee-jun thought he'd won. Thought he'd destroyed her completely. Thought she'd never come back. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. Monday morning arrived with clear skies and a crispness to the air that felt like a new beginning. Zara stood outside Hanseong Academy's gates for the second time in 6 weeks, but this time, everything was different. She was different. Gone was the girl who'd worn bright colors and smiled at everyone. Gone was the optimism that had made her think kindness could fix anything. Gone was the Zara Williams who'd believed in second chances and the good in people. That girl had died the day Kang Hee-jun destroyed her. The person standing at the gates now wore all black, black jeans, black top, black jacket. Her natural hair, which she'd once worn in its full glory, was pulled back into a sleek, severe ponytail. Her makeup was minimal but sharp, dark liner that made her eyes look fierce, lips painted a deep burgundy that looked almost like dried blood. She looked like war personified, and she felt ready for it. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother, first day back. "You okay, baby?" Zara typed back, "Never better." Another lie. She was good at those now. She pushed through the gates and walked into the building, head high, shoulders back. Students stared. Of course they stared. The expelled girl was back, and she looked nothing like the bright-eyed transfer student who'd left. Whispers followed her like a wake. "Is that Zara Williams? I thought she got expelled. What happened to her? She looks scary." Good. Scary was what she was going for. She made her way to her locker, her old locker, reinstated along with everything else, and started loading her books. The familiar routine felt surreal, like she was an actor playing a part in someone else's life. "Zara?" She turned to find Minji standing there, eyes wide with shock. "Oh my God, you're back. I heard rumors, but I didn't think." Minji stopped, taking in Zara's new appearance. "Wow, you look different." "I feel different," Zara said neutrally. "Are you okay?" "After everything that happened, I wanted to reach out, but I didn't know if." "I'm fine. But the expulsion, the accusations, all cleared. I was innocent. The school acknowledged their mistake. I'm back." Minji looked like she wanted to say more, but something in Zara's expression stopped her. The warmth that had once been there, the openness, it was gone. Replaced by something harder, colder. "Well, I'm glad you're back," Minji said finally. "If you need anything, I won't. But thanks." Zara closed her locker and walked away, leaving Minji staring after her with confused concern. She didn't have time for friends. Didn't have time for anything except the singular purpose that had consumed her for the last 6 weeks. Revenge. She saw him before the first period. Hee-jun was at his usual spot, leaning against the wall outside the senior classroom, alone, face buried in a book. He looked exactly the same as he had 6 weeks ago. Same perfect posture. Same expensive uniform. Same mask of cold indifference. Except something was different. His face looked thinner. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. And when he turned the page of his book, his hand trembled slightly. Good, Zara thought viciously. Let him suffer. She walked past him deliberately, close enough that he'd notice, but not close enough to seem intentional. He looked up. Their eyes met. And Zara watched with dark satisfaction, as every ounce of color drained from his face. He looked like he was seeing a ghost. His book slipped from his fingers, hitting the ground with a thud that made several nearby students jump. "Zara," he breathed, and the single word held so much shock, fear, something that looked almost like relief. She said nothing, just looked at him with empty eyes, let a cold smile curve her lips, and walked into the classroom. Behind her, she heard him scramble to pick up his book. Heard his breathing turn ragged. The first hit had landed. And it felt good. Class started and Hee-jun didn't show. For the first time since Zara had transferred in, Kang Hee-jun was late to class. She'd rattled him. Completely. He finally appeared 15 minutes into the lesson, looking disheveled in a way she'd never seen. His tie was crooked, his hair slightly messy, his usual mask fractured enough that everyone could see the tension underneath. "Mr. Kong," the teacher said sharply. "You're late." "I apologize," Hejun said, his voice rough. "It won't happen again." He moved to his usual seat, 3 rows behind Zara, and she felt his eyes on the back of her head like a physical weight. She didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge him, just took notes with perfect penmanship and pretended he didn't exist. 2 could play the cold game, and she'd learned from the best. The confrontation came at lunch. Zara was at her locker, switching out books, when she felt the shift in the air. The hallway went quiet. Students scattered like water around an approaching shark. She didn't need to turn around to know he was there. "Zara." His voice was low, strained. "We need to talk." She finished organizing her books, taking her time, before slowly turning to face him. Up close, the changes were even more obvious. He looked like he hadn't slept properly in weeks. There was a tightness around his eyes, a gauntness to his cheeks. He looked haunted. "Good. I don't think we do," she said coolly. "Yes, we do. You're back." "How are you back?" "The school board reviewed my case. Turns out all that evidence against me was fabricated. Funny how that works." Something flickered in his eyes. "You proved your innocence." "Yes. Did you think I wouldn't? Did you think I'd just slink away quietly and let you win?" "That's not." He ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I didn't think you'd come back. After everything. Why would you come back here?" Zara stepped closer, invading his personal space the way he'd once invaded her peace of mind. He tensed but didn't back away. "I came back," she said quietly, dangerously, "because I made you a promise. Do you remember what I said?" His jaw tightened. "Zara, please. I said I'd come back. And I said you'd regret it." She smiled, and it was nothing like the warm smiles she used to give him. This smile was cold. Sharp. "So here I am, Hejun. And now the real fun begins." "What are you talking about?" "I'm going to destroy you. Systematically. Completely. The way you destroyed me." She leaned in closer, voice dropping to a whisper that only he could hear. "By the time I'm done, you're going to wish you'd never known my name." His face went pale. "You don't understand what you're starting." She stepped back, that cold smile still in place. "Oh, I understand perfectly. I spent 6 weeks learning everything about you. Your family. Your secrets. Your weaknesses. I know things that would shatter that perfect image you work so hard to maintain." "Zara, don't do this." "Why not? You didn't hesitate when you destroyed me. Why should I extend you the same courtesy?" "Because I did it to protect you." The words burst out of him loud enough that several lingering students stopped to stare. Hejun seemed to realize this, clenched his jaw, and lowered his voice again. "I did it to protect you," he repeated, quieter but no less intense. "You don't understand the danger you were in. Save it." Zara's voice was ice. "I don't care about your excuses. I don't care about your reasons. You made your choice 6 weeks ago. Now I'm making mine." She turned to walk away. "I'm sorry." His voice cracked on the words. "Zara, I'm so sorry." She paused, looked back over her shoulder. For just a moment, she saw the boy she'd liked, vulnerable, frightened, desperately trying to reach her through the walls he'd built. Then she remembered crying in her mother's arms. Remembered the shame, the humiliation, the way her entire world had crumbled. "Your apology means nothing to me," she said flatly. "You're nothing to me." The look on his face, devastated, broken, almost made her feel something. Almost. She walked away and didn't look back. Hejun stood frozen in the hallway long after she'd gone. She's back. The thought kept circling in his head like a mantra. The one thing he'd told himself would never happen. She was supposed to move on, start over, forget about him and this school and everything that had happened. She wasn't supposed to come back. And she definitely wasn't supposed to look at him with such cold, calculated hatred. The Zara he'd known, bright, warm, persistent, was gone. In her place was someone he didn't recognize. Someone hard and angry and dangerous. Someone he'd created. "Dude, what was that about?" His friend Miho appeared at his elbow. "Did Zara Williams just threaten you?" "Leave it alone," Hejun said. "She said she's going to destroy you." "What the hell did you do to her?" "Everything," Hejun thought. "I did everything to her. I said leave it alone." "Fine, but if she actually tries something, she won't." But even as Hejun said it, he knew it was a lie. The look in her eyes had been deadly serious. She'd meant every word. And part of him, the part that had spent 6 weeks drowning in guilt, thought maybe he deserved whatever she was planning. Zara's first move came that afternoon in advanced calculus. The class was presenting their research papers, complex, original work that counted for 30% of their final grade. Hejun's presentation was first, as always. He stood at the front of the room, clicking through his slides with his usual confident monotone. The application of differential equations in quantum mechanics demonstrates. His voice droned on, technically perfect but emotionlessly delivered. Zara sat in the back, waiting, watching. When he finished, the teacher nodded approvingly. Excellent work as always, Mr. Kong. Your analysis of the wave function. Excuse me, Zara said, raising her hand. The class turned to look at her. Hejun's eyes snapped to hers, something like dread crossing his face. Yes, Miss Williams, the teacher said. I have a question about the source material. Of course. On slide 17, you referenced a paper by Dr. Kim Seojun from Seoul National University, published last year. I found that paper fascinating when I read it, particularly the section about eigenvalue problems. Hejun's face had gone carefully blank. Yes, it was relevant to my thesis. It was, Zara agreed pleasantly. In fact, it was so relevant that approximately 60% of your presentation comes directly from that paper. Almost word for word in some sections. The classroom went dead silent. That's not true, Hejun said, but his voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? Zara pulled out her tablet, stood up. I took the liberty of comparing your presentation to Dr. Kim's original paper. May I? She didn't wait for permission, just walked to the front and connected her tablet to the projector. Side-by-side comparisons appeared. Hejun's slides next to excerpts from the published paper. The similarities were damning. The teacher's face went red. Mr. Kong, is this true? Did you plagiarize this work? I cited the paper, Hejun said, and there was something desperate in his eyes as he looked at Zara. Something pleading. You cited it once. On the bibliography slide. Zara's voice was pleasant, conversational even. But you presented this work as your own analysis. Your own conclusions. When in reality, you simply copied someone else's research. I didn't. The evidence is right there, Zara said, gesturing to the screen. Then she looked directly at him, and her smile was razor-sharp. Funny how evidence works, isn't it? How it can prove things even when the accused says they didn't do it. The pointed reference to her own expulsion hung in the air. Hejun's face went white. Mr. Kong, the teacher said coldly, you'll need to come with me to the dean's office. Now, Mr. Kong. As Hejun gathered his things with shaking hands, he looked at Zara one more time. She met his gaze steadily, that cold smile never wavering. Consider that round one, she mouthed silently. He flinched like she'd struck him. The news spread through the school like wildfire. Kong Hejun, perfect, untouchable Kong Hejun, had been caught plagiarizing. His paper was invalidated. His grade dropped to a failing mark pending a disciplinary hearing. The teacher had even mentioned possible suspension. Students whispered about it in the halls, equal parts shocked and gleeful that someone had finally knocked the air down a peg. Zara listened to it all with satisfaction. It wasn't enough, not even close to what he deserved, but it was a start. She found him after school on the roof, their old confrontation spot. He was leaning against the railing, looking out over Seoul with his shoulders hunched in a way she'd never seen before. He heard her approach but didn't turn around. You actually did it, he said quietly. You destroyed my academic record. I exposed your cheating, Zara corrected, coming to stand beside him but leaving space between them. There's a difference. I didn't cheat. That work was stolen? Copied? Plagiarized? Which word would you prefer? I was going to cite it properly. I just hadn't finished. Don't lie to me. Zara's voice was hard. I know you, remember? I studied you for weeks. You don't make mistakes like that. You don't leave citations incomplete. You did exactly what I said you did. You copied that work and hoped no one would notice. Hejun was quiet for a long moment. Then, why did you care enough to check? Because I told you I'd destroy you. Did you think that was an empty threat? I thought, he turned to face her finally, and his eyes were red-rimmed. I thought you'd realize it wasn't worth it. That revenge wouldn't make you feel better. You're right, Zara said. It doesn't make me feel better. But it makes me feel something other than broken. And that's enough. This isn't you. The Zara I knew wouldn't. The Zara you knew is dead, she snapped. You killed her. What's standing here now is what you created. So don't you dare act surprised. I did what I had to do. So am I. They stared at each other, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. Anger and guilt and pain and something else, something neither of them wanted to acknowledge. How far are you going to take this? Hajin asked finally. As far as I need to. Until what? Until I'm expelled too? Until my entire future is destroyed the way you think I destroyed yours. Maybe. Or maybe just until you understand what you did to me. Until you feel even a fraction of what I felt. I do understand. The words burst out of him, raw and desperate. I understand perfectly because I've felt it every single day since you left. Every morning I wake up and remember what I did to you. Every time I walk past your empty desk. Every time I see something that reminds me of your smile. I understand, Zara. His voice cracked. I don't know how to fix it. You can't fix it, Zara said flatly. That's the point. Some things can't be fixed. They can only be survived. Then what do you want from me? I want you to suffer. The words came out cold. Final. I want you to know what it feels like to have everything ripped away. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. She stopped herself, breathing hard. What? Hajun pressed. What else do you want? I want to stop caring about you, she thought. I want to stop remembering the boy who read quantum physics in the library. I want to hate you without this ache in my chest that won't go away. But she didn't say any of that. I want you to leave me alone, she said instead. Stop following me. Stop trying to explain. Just let me do what I need to do. And if I won't, then you'll make this harder on both of us. She turned to leave. Zara, wait. She paused but didn't turn around. I know you won't believe me. I know I don't deserve for you to believe me. But I need you to know something. His voice was quiet, strained. Everything I did, the frame up, the expulsion, pushing you away, I did it because I was falling in love with you. And that terrified me more than anything else in my life. Zara's breath caught. She stood frozen, hand on the door handle. I thought if I destroyed what we had before it could really begin, you'd be safe. You'd hate me and stay away and never become a target. But all I did was, his voice broke completely. All I did was destroy the best thing that ever happened to me. Don't, Zara whispered. Don't what? Don't tell me you loved me. Don't try to make this some tragic love story. You didn't love me, Hijun. You destroyed me. And love doesn't do that. Sometimes it does. Sometimes love is choosing to break someone's heart so they'll be safe. Even if it destroys you in the process. That's not love. That's control. That's deciding for someone else what they can handle, what risks they're allowed to take. That's stripping away someone's choices because you're too afraid to face your own feelings. She finally turned to look at him, and there were tears on her face now. Tears she hadn't wanted him to see. You didn't save me, Hijun. You broke me. And now I'm breaking you back. That's not love. That's just, her voice cracked. That's just two people destroying each other because we don't know how to do anything else. She left before he could respond, left him standing alone on the roof with her words echoing in the space between them. That night, Zara lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. I was falling in love with you. The words kept replaying in her head, unwanted and unwelcome. Because part of her, the part she wanted to kill but couldn't quite manage to, had wanted to hear those words 6 weeks ago, had dreamed of them, but not like this, not tangled up with lies and pain and destruction. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I know you have no reason to believe me. I know I've done nothing to earn your trust. But every word I said on the roof was true. I'm sorry, Zara. For everything. Even if you never forgive me, I need you to know that. She stared at the message for a long time. Her finger hovered over the delete button. But she didn't delete it. Instead, she typed back, your apology changes nothing. The war continues tomorrow. His response came immediately, I know. I'm not asking you to stop. I just needed you to know the truth. She should have blocked his number. Should have deleted the conversation and pretended it never happened. But instead, she saved his contact and turned off her phone. Because despite everything, despite the hatred and the revenge and the cold determination to make him suffer, there was still a part of her that remembered what it felt like to have a crush on Kang Hee-jun. And that part, small and wounded and refusing to die, whispered traitorously in the dark. What if he's telling the truth? She crushed that thought down viciously, smothered it before it could take root. Because the truth didn't matter. His reasons didn't matter. All that mattered was making him pay. And tomorrow, round 2 will begin. The war between them became the school's favorite spectator sport. It started small, calculated jabs that only they understood. Zara would accidentally bump into Hajun in the hallway, spilling his coffee. He'd forget to save her a seat in the one class where seating was first come, forcing her to sit in the front row she hated. She'd correct him loudly during class discussions, pointing out flaws in his arguments with surgical precision. He'd do the same to her, their debates turning into verbal sparring matches that left their classmates watching like it was a tennis match. But it escalated. By the end of the first week, Zara had exposed 3 more instances of Hajun's academic shortcuts. Not quite plagiarism, but close enough to damage his reputation. His perfect GPA started slipping. Teachers who'd once fawned over him began scrutinizing his work with suspicious eyes. Hajun retaliated by having her removed from the student council. Some technicality about her expulsion, meaning she needed to reapply for leadership positions. It was petty and transparent, but effective. The club she'd been planning to lead went to someone else. Zara responded by starting a rumor that Hajun had paid someone to take his entrance exams. It wasn't true, but it spread like wildfire, and suddenly college recruiters were asking uncomfortable questions. Hajun countered by getting her banned from the library during lunch period, her favorite study time, citing some obscure rule about students on academic probation needing supervised study halls. She wasn't on academic probation. He'd made that up. Back and forth. Attack and counterattack. Each move more calculated than the last. And through it all, they couldn't stop watching each other. "You're obsessed with him," Minji said bluntly 2 weeks into Zara's return. They were in the bathroom between classes, and Minji had cornered Zara at the sinks. "I'm not obsessed. I'm focused. You talk about him constantly. Every conversation somehow circles back to what Hajun did, what you're going to do to Hajun, how Hajun reacted to your last move. That's obsession, Zara. He destroyed my life. I'm returning the favor. That's justice, not obsession." "Is it?" Minji leaned against the counter, studying her. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're letting him control your entire existence. Just in a different way than before. That's not. When was the last time you did something that wasn't about him? Went somewhere he wasn't? Thought about anything other than your next move in this war you two are waging?" Zara opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Because Minji was right. Every moment of her day revolved around Hajun. What he was doing, where he was, how to hurt him next. Even when she wasn't actively plotting, he was there in her head. "He consumed me before by making me like him," Zara said quietly. "Now he consumes me by making me hate him. Either way, I can't escape him. So stop trying to destroy him and just move on. Be free of him." "I can't." "Why not?" Because every time she thought about walking away, she remembered crying in the principal's office. Remembered watching her scholarship disappear. Remembered the look on Hajun's face when he'd told her to get out of his school. "Because he needs to understand what he did," Zara said finally. "He needs to feel it. And when he does, when you've hurt him enough, what then?" Zara didn't have an answer. Hajun's friends staged a similar intervention. "Dude, you need to let this go," Miho said, cornering him in the gym after basketball practice. "Let what go?" "The Zara thing. You've been a complete disaster since she came back. You're not sleeping, you're barely eating, your grades are tanking, and you spend all your time either getting revenge on her or brooding about her revenge on you." "I'm handling it." "You're not handling shit. You're spiraling." Hajun grabbed his gym bag, tried to walk away. Miho blocked his path. "I'm serious, Hajun. What's the endgame here? You two just destroy each other until there's nothing left. She started this." "Did she?" "Because from what I heard, you framed her for cheating and got her expelled. So technically you started it." Hajun's jaw tightened. "You don't understand the situation. Then explain it to me. Help me understand why you're letting some girl. Don't call her that." The words came out sharp, dangerous. Miho raised his eyebrows. "Some girl who you supposedly don't care about is taking up every thought in your head. Because that's what this looks like. It looks like you're obsessed with her." "I'm not obsessed. I'm..." Hajun stopped, realizing he didn't have a word for what he was. Guilty. Desperate. Terrified. In love with someone who hated him. Drowning in the consequences of his own actions. "You're what?" Miho pressed. "I'm trying to survive," Hajun said quietly. "That's all. Just survive." "Well, you're doing a shit job of it." After Miho left, Hajun sat alone in the empty locker room, head in his hands. Miho was right. He was spiraling. Every interaction with Zara left him more shaken than the last. Every calculated attack she leveled at him felt both like punishment he deserved and pain he couldn't bear. And the worst part, he couldn't stop thinking about her. Not just about the revenge, the war, the mutual destruction, but about her. The way her eyes flashed when she was angry. The sharp intelligence in every verbal jab. The glimpses of hurt that she tried so hard to hide, but couldn't quite manage. She was destroying him, yes. But he couldn't bring himself to truly fight back. Couldn't put his full weight behind his counterattacks, because some part of him believed he deserved every bit of pain she inflicted. I was falling in love with you. He'd said it on the roof, and it had been true. Past tense. Except it wasn't past tense. It was present. Continuous. An ache that grew sharper every day. He was in love with someone who hated him. Someone he'd destroyed. Someone who was systematically dismantling his entire life in return. And he couldn't stop it. Didn't want to stop it. Because at least this way, locked in this vicious war, they were still connected. Still bound to each other, even if that bond was made of anger and pain. At least this way, she was still in his life. The library incident happened 3 weeks in. Hejun had successfully gotten Zara banned from the library during lunch, but she'd found a loophole. She could still access the library during free periods, when it was mostly empty. She was there on a Wednesday afternoon, tucked into her usual corner, working on an essay for literature class. The library was quiet, peaceful. For the first time in weeks, she felt like she could breathe without the weight of her revenge sitting on her chest. Then Hejun appeared. He walked past her table, headed for the quantum physics section as if she wasn't there. As if he hadn't spent the last 3 weeks trying to make her life miserable. Zara tried to ignore him. Tried to focus on her essay. But then he dropped a book. It was deliberate. She could tell by the way he looked at her immediately after, waiting for her reaction. The book landed with a thud that echoed in the silent library. Everyone remembered the pen. The moment that had started everything. Zara stared at the book on the floor. Then at Hejun, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't read. "You dropped something," she said, echoing her words from months ago. "I know. So pick it up. I was hoping you would." The parallel was so obvious, so pointed, that Zara felt anger flash through her. "I'm not playing your games, Hejun. Aren't you? Isn't this whole thing a game? You move, I counter. I attack, you retaliate. Round and round we go. If it's a game, you started it. And you refuse to end it." Zara stood up, walked over to where the book lay between them. She bent down, picked it up, but instead of handing it to him, she walked to the window and held it out over the ledge. "What are you doing?" Hejun asked, alarm creeping into his voice. "Making a point. You want this book? Beg for it. Zara, beg. Apologize for everything you did. Get on your knees and tell me you're sorry. And maybe, I won't drop this very expensive textbook 3 stories." They stared at each other, the book suspended between them like everything else, their past, their pain, their impossible situation. "You won't drop it," Hejun said quietly. "Won't I?" "No, because despite everything, despite hating me, you're not cruel. Not really. That's not who you are. You don't know who I am anymore. Don't I?" He took a step closer. "I know you stayed up all night researching my plagiarism claim because you couldn't stand the thought of falsely accusing someone, even me. I know you made sure your rumors about me couldn't actually affect my college prospects, even though you pretended they could. I know every attack you've leveled has been surgical, calculated to hurt but not destroy." Another step closer. "I know you're not sleeping because I've seen the exhaustion in your eyes. I know you're not eating enough because your uniforms are looser than they were. I know you're punishing yourself as much as you're punishing me." He was close enough now that she could see the shadows under his eyes, the gauntness in his cheeks. He looked as wrecked as she felt. "And I know," he said softly, "that you hate that you still care. That some part of you still remembers what it was like before I destroyed everything. That you wish you could hate me completely, but you can't quite manage it." Zara's hand shook. The book trembled in her grip. "You're wrong," she whispered. "Am I? I do hate you. Completely. There's nothing left of what I felt before." Then dropped the book. They locked eyes. Challenge and counter-challenge, just like everything else between them. Zara pulled the book back from the ledge. Threw it at his chest. He caught it reflexively. "I didn't drop it because I'm not wasteful," she said coldly. "Not because I care about you. Keep telling yourself that. I will. Just like you keep telling yourself that you destroyed me to protect me. We're both liars, Hejun. The difference is I know I'm lying." She grabbed her things and headed for the door. Zara, wait. She didn't. But she heard him follow her. Heard his footsteps echoing in the empty hallway as she walked faster, trying to outrun him and the conversation and the truth she didn't want to face. Zara, please. Just talk to me. We're done talking. We're never done. That's the problem. He caught her arm, spun her around. We can't stop. Can't let go. We're caught in this loop of hurting each other, and we don't know how to break out of it. Then maybe we don't break out. Maybe we just keep going until one of us destroys the other completely. Is that what you want? What I want, Zara said, voice shaking with emotion she couldn't contain anymore, is for you to have never looked at me that first day. I want to have stayed invisible. I want to have never smiled at you, never liked you, never believed you were something you weren't. I want to go back and warn myself that Kang Hee-jun is exactly what everyone says he is, dangerous and cold and destructive. I want, her voice broke. She was crying now, furious at herself for showing weakness. I want to stop feeling like this, she whispered. Like I'm breaking apart and putting myself back together wrong over and over again. Like I can't remember who I was before you. Like I'm stuck in this nightmare and I can't wake up. Hee-jun's face crumpled. I'm so sorry. Your sorry isn't enough. I know it's not. But I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to fix this. You can't fix it. That's the point. There is no fixing this. There's just, she gestured helplessly between them. This, whatever this is. This toxic, destructive thing we're doing to each other. Then let's stop. Please. Let's just stop. How? You tell me how we stop when every time I see your face I remember what you did to me. When every breath I take feels like it's laced with rage. How do I stop, Hee-jun? He reached up, cupped her face with shaking hands. She should have pulled away. Should have slapped him. But she stood frozen, caught in his dark eyes that held too much pain to process. I don't know, he admitted. I don't know how to make this stop. All I know is that I can't. I can't keep watching you destroy yourself trying to destroy me. I can't keep lying in bed at night wondering if you're okay. I can't keep pretending I don't care when caring about you is literally the only thing I feel anymore. Don't, Zara breathed. Don't say things like that. Why not? It's true. You want the truth? Here's the truth. I think about you every second of every day. I dream about you. I wake up reaching for my phone to text you before I remember you hate me. I see something funny and my first thought is, I should tell Zara before I remember I destroyed any chance of that. You've consumed me completely and utterly, and I don't know how to be free of you. That's not love, Zara said, even as her heart hammered in her chest. That's obsession. Maybe. Or maybe there's no difference. Maybe love is just obsession with a prettier name. He was so close now. Close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough that she could feel his breath ghosting across her lips. Close enough to kiss, if either of them were brave enough or stupid enough to close the distance. I don't know if I hate you, Hee-jun whispered, or if I'm terrified of you. Because you make me feel things I've spent my entire life running from. You make me want things I can't have. You make me wish I could be someone different, someone better, someone worthy of. He stopped himself. Worthy of what? Zara asked, though she thought she already knew the answer. Of you. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning and impossible wishes. Zara's hands came up, pressed against his chest. To push him away, she told herself. To create distance. But her fingers curled into his shirt instead, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that was spinning out of control. Hee-jun, she whispered, not sure what she was asking for. He leaned in, and she didn't pull away. This was insane. This was wrong. This was the last thing either of them should be doing. But his lips were a breath away from hers, and every nerve in her body was screaming for her to close that distance, to feel something other than rage and pain and the exhausting weight of revenge. The window at the end of the hall shattered. Glass exploded inward. Someone screamed. And Hee-jun's entire body went rigid, his eyes widening with an expression Zara had never seen before. Pure terror. Get down, he shouted, grabbing her and pulling her to the ground just as something whistled through the air where her head had been a second before. A bullet. Someone was shooting at them. More glass shattered. Students screamed and scattered. An alarm started blaring. And Hee-jun covered Zara's body with his own, pressing her into the floor, whispering words she couldn't process through the sound of her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Stay down. Don't move. Don't look up. Just stay with me. Another gunshot. Closer this time. Zara tried to see what was happening, But Hejun's hand came up, pressed her face into his chest, keeping her blind and shielded. Hejun, they're here for me. This is because of my family. Because of who I am. Who? I'll explain later. Right now we just need to survive. A man's voice called out in Korean, something harsh and commanding. Hejun tensed above her, and Zara felt him reach for something. His phone maybe, or another gunshot. This one close enough that Zara felt Hejun jerk against her. Felt something warm and wet soak through her shirt. Blood. Hejun. Her voice came out high, terrified. Hejun, are you? I'm fine. I'm okay. But his voice was strained. Tight with pain. You're bleeding. Just stay down. The security guards will be here soon. Just stay down and stay quiet. But Zara couldn't stay quiet. Couldn't stay still. Because the boy who destroyed her life was bleeding on top of her, using his body as a shield, and all she could think was, I can't lose him. Not like this. Not when there was still so much unsaid. Not when she'd just been about to, what? Kiss him? Forgive him? Let go of her rage long enough to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, her feelings were more complicated than simple hatred? She'd never know now. Because Hejun was bleeding and there were men with guns, and this was real, terrifyingly real. Not some game they were playing with words and small cruelties. Hejun, she whispered, holding on to him now, her earlier anger forgotten in the face of actual danger. Please be okay. Please. His hand found hers, squeezed weakly. I'm sorry. For everything. For getting you involved in this. His voice faded, breaths coming shorter. Don't, Zara said fiercely. Don't you dare apologize now. Don't you dare act like you're dying. The word stuck in her throat. More shouting. Running footsteps. The sound of a struggle. Hejun's weight grew heavier on top of her. His hand went slack in hers. Hejun. Security guards swarmed the hallway. Someone was pulling Hejun off her. Someone else was checking him for wounds. He's been shot. Call an ambulance. Now. Zara scrambled to her knees, grabbed Hejun's hand as they laid him out on the floor. His eyes were closed. His face pale. Blood spreading across his white shirt in a bloom that kept growing. Stay with me, she begged, not caring who heard, not caring about their war or her revenge or anything except the terrifying possibility that he might not open his eyes again. You don't get to do this. You don't get to save me and then die. That's not, you can't. His eyes fluttered open. Found hers. And even through the pain, even through everything, he smiled slightly. You're crying for me, he whispered. Shut up. Save your strength. You hate me. I know. But you still don't get to die. Why not? Because, the words caught in her throat, too true and too terrifying to say out loud. Because I'm not done with you yet. I still need to make you suffer. So you have to live. Understand? You have to live. Okay, he breathed. For you. I'll try. His eyes closed again. The paramedics arrived. They pulled Zara away as they loaded him onto a stretcher, and she stood there, covered in his blood, shaking uncontrollably. This was supposed to be revenge. Supposed to be justice. Supposed to be her making him pay for what he'd done. But as she watched them wheel him away, watched his still, pale face disappear into the ambulance, only one thought circled endlessly in her mind. I can't lose him. I can't lose him. I can't lose him. And she realized, with horror and wonder and grief all mixed together, she'd never hated him at all.